Hello, welcome to episode 8 of the Shanty Knits podcast. My name is Chantal. I am your host. Ironically, if you're watching these back to back from my last episode, I am wearing a different dress, but one of my commenters on my first video mentioned that the sound quality was a little off, so I just decided I was going to record another one because the yarn that I wanted to show you at the end of the video that I dyed, the lighting was playing with it, so I just wanted you to see it in its full glory anyway. So we're going to record another podcast. Hopefully the sound is a little bit better for you guys. Just let me know if not, and I'll try to tweak it a little bit. It's been a while since I recorded a podcast, and maybe I changed my settings while filming something else, so just let me know down in the comments. I can be found on Ravelry as Shanty Knits and on Instagram as Shanty_D. As I mentioned in my last podcast, this one is just the whips and then the yarn that I dyed and a couple of items that I wanted to show you at the end. So, without further ado, let us begin. This is called the Palmyre cardigan by Audrey of the Yarn Flakes. It has a very interesting construction. So you knit this lace panel first. This is the back part, and then you come into the front. So you'll split for the front, and that one large motif becomes the two fronts. So that's pretty cool. The lace is blocked, but the picked up stitches, I apologize, the sun decided it wanted to come out, and I just spent forever with the lighting, but we're good. You pick up the stitches on the front and the back, and she tells you, and she gives you a photo diagram in the pattern where to pick up for the shoulders, because there is short rows in the shoulders. So you pick up all of those stitches, and then you'll mark where your shoulder seam is, or your shoulders are, and then just knit that flat. And then when you come to the specified measurement for your size, then you 3 needle bind off the side of that. I'm going to fix the lighting now once more because that was an issue in the last video and I don't want it to be an issue in this one. So give me 1 second and I'll be right back, and hopefully the lighting will be much better for you. Okay, so hopefully that's a little bit better for you guys. Where was I? Oh, so you pick up for these, your shoulders are already marked off, so you just remove those markers from the fabric itself and then put those on your needles. You follow the instructions. Like I said, there is short rows for the shoulder. Once you get to the end, I think this is where we were, you 3 needle bind off at the sides. I like 2 at a time sleeves, so I left my sleeves on a cable, so when I'm done with the other side I can just pick them all up and knit them at once. But it is a little bit scrunched up for 2 reasons. One, the other side is on a short cable, and then it hasn't been blocked yet. The lace is blocked, but the green isn't blocked yet. So it does have not necessarily high-low hem, but you make the front panels a little bit shorter than the back panel, so it raises the fronts up a little bit. But obviously you can modify that by making the front and the back the same size. And then this is the other side. So I've already picked up and I'm working back and forth now. I've completed my short rows, and then she tells you in the pattern to mark that spot, because although you can measure how long each side is, the more accurate would be to measure or count your rows so you have the same amount of rows on either side. So that's this marker right here. I still have the other one on the other side as well, so that when I'm done or close to being done, I can just count out my rows for that. But I love these colors together and how it's working out. And that lace, so nice. But this yarn is Cloudborn Highland DK. Yes, in the evergreen and sand colorways. So sand, evergreen. As I mentioned before, I'm starting to really fall in love with greens And this one is no exception. Isn't it pretty? So that's Palmyre by Audrey. This one I have a February 9th, yes, due date. So she usually doesn't hold her designs for very long, so it should be coming out somewhere in the February March time frame. But I'll definitely come back and link this if you're watching it at a later date, just so you know what it is, and if it is finished, you can read everybody's notes on what they did and how it came out. Let me make sure. Yep, that is everything for this work in progress. My next one is for, actually we'll leave it like that so you can see the lace a little bit. My next one is for Grace of Babbles Yarns. I think she changed it from Babbles Traveling Yarn to just Babbles Yarn, but Grace of that podcast, she is knitting, or she's finished hers, but it's the Rosemary and Thyme pullover. It's her very first design, so we're still in the testing phase for that. Here is my color work. I'll show you the front neck marker. Here's another lovely green. But this is the front neck. I don't think you can see, but it has a little yellow marker. That's the front neck right there. And then it does have short rows at the back to raise that up. When you cast on, you do corrugated rib at the top. I am being very mindful of yarn dominance in this project, just because I love the colors together and I want it to be at its max full potential. And those, I'll show you where the ends aren't. That's my inside floats. I'm being very mindful of it, and I think it's coming out lovely. These are Cloudborn Superwash Merino DK. So this one is Highland DK. This is Merino DK. This one I would definitely say the Highland DK. You could definitely pull off with a sport weight project with this one, or a very light DK. Like if a shawl called for DK and you didn't want it to be quite as heavy, this would probably work out and give you fairly close to the stitch pattern that you're supposed to get. But they're both DK weight yarns. I don't think I wrote down the yardage, and I didn't bring the project bag that the Highland DK is in, but the Merino DK has 221 yards to 100 grams. So, and I believe this one has 3 something to it per 100 grams. I think it's 100 gram skein. But that's the Highland DK, and then this one is the Superwash DK. Both of them I am loving right now. Cloudborn, again, I don't know if I mentioned that, but it's the Cloudborn yarn line, and I'll tell you these colors. Oh, this gold is actually Hugh Loco's color. So for the maroon, that's the Garnet Heather. The purple is called Lavender Heather. The green is Fern Heather. The gray is Slate Heather. And then the gold is Hugh Loco's. It's still 100% Superwash Merino DK in the blue Langshan gold. I think that says Langshan. Can't read my writing, so it's either Langshan or Langshan. One of those. Write better next time. But there's 4 yoke motifs. I'm still on the very first yoke motif in that pattern, so it's still coming along. It's a March due date, so it has a little bit of time before it's released, but I'm loving that. And then you can see how those short rows work out to the front neck. So I'm making it as written in the pattern, since it is her first pattern. I don't want to do like any or ask her if I can do any modifications on it and heavily modify it away from what she's looking for. So I'm going to do it as a full length pullover pattern for this sweater. And that is the Rosemary Thyme pullover. This third work in progress that I have is the Parks and Rec pullover by Melissa of Knitting the Stash. She's featured it on her podcast, and it is a baseball tee inspired pullover. It's my first V-neck, so I'm looking forward to that and that kind of construction. I've read over the pattern, and it seems fairly simple, but once I start knitting it, I might find out, like, oh, that's not what I thought I was going to be doing and get confused. But hopefully it is as straightforward as it looks, and my brain won't get boggled or hung up on any task. But I'm looking forward to making the V-neck. I am doing mine a little bit different. How she has it is she has a solid color for the sleeves and the hem, and I think the V-neck part, I'm not sure, but I think the V-neck part as well. And then the body is held together with a variegated yarn and a variegated mohair, I think she used. I think it's mohair, not Siri, but I think it's mohair. Those held together, fingering held together. But mine, I am knitting out of some stash, and this is Knit Picks Chroma. And then there's actually two different colorways because I had 3 balls of the Sedona and then 3 balls of the Carnival. And both of those are kind of similar, but one of them has more blue and purple while the other one has more like red towards purple. But I will show you, get some yarn here so I'm not pulling, but this is where I'm at so far. I did have to go up a needle size on this one. I think it's knit for 2, US size 2, and I think I'm using a 2.5. As soon as I find the front of it, I'll let you know. Drop some stitches. Two and a half, yes. So the pattern is written for 2. I'm doing 2.5. I did do the ribbing. Sorry, I'm picking up some stitches. I did do the ribbing in a size 2 instead of a size 1, but she does have a note in the pattern that says she uses the same size needle for her body as she does for the ribbing. So that's always an option. So I didn't figure it was super important that I had to go down that full needle size. So I did just do the 2 for the ribbing and then 2.5 for the body. And then that's how it's coming together. I don't have any ends because since it's a single construction type yarn, I just splice the ends together of the yarn. So here is the Sedona, and then here is the Carnival. So you can kind of see how that turns into like a red purple, whereas this is like a blue purple. But where I switch the colors is right here in that yellow, so you can see that on the outside ball. So I switched them right here at the yellow in the actual pullover pattern itself. So this yellow stripe up here is actually a blend of both of those yellows, and then it goes into that purple and then into that blue. And then this purple down here is the purple for the Sedona. So you can see how those are working very well together. I didn't want to have to buy any extra yarn because I did have the mohair, and if I could keep it at like a neutral cost, I dropped more stitches. It's on a very short cable for how many stitches you have on it, so that's why I keep dropping them. I apologize. But I didn't want to have to buy any yarn, so when I looked at those 2 colors, I was like, these actually have very similar colors in it. Probably why I bought them. But I could probably make it work together for this pullover. And then I am doing a cropped version, even though I think with the stash that I have, I could probably make the full-size version, but I would prefer a cropped version. I think a cropped V-neck pullover would be super cute for wintertime, so that is what I'm going for this particular whip. Let me make sure I have told you everything. The mohair in that is Knit Picks as well, and it's the Aloft in the Pennyroyal colorway. So Chroma in the Carnivals and Sedona, and then the Aloft in the Pennyroyal, and I think that's a mohair nylon blend for Knit Picks. I think that's all that I have to tell you. Oh, February 25th is my due date for this. I don't know if she'll be releasing it shortly after that, or she's going to send it back to her tech editor, or how that's going to work. So, but February 25th is my due date, so I would probably keep an eye out for it. I'm sure she's probably going to be very vocal about it on her Instagram when it's heading towards the release date. And I'll also podcast about it, as well as when I'm done with it, come here and discuss it with you lovely people and tell you how I fared in that V-neck construction. I think there is only one more whip that I have for you. Yes, it is my husband's sweater, which has turned the ripe age of 1. It's 1 year old. Happy birthday. So this is it. I think we're at the steep, yes. So this is the front with this steep panel, that stripe right here. But that has a steep panel in the front. So I guess technically it's a cardigan. And I'm almost halfway down the body. Here's the yoke. I'm not following a pattern. The numbers that I am using is from, I think I can see it from here, Amy Herzog's The Ultimate Sweater Book. So I'm using the numbers out of there for a men's cardigan. And then the motifs I got out of this book. It's 200 Fair Isle Motifs by Mary Jane Mucklestone. So these came out of this. And now I'm just knitting in the round until I get to the bottom and do his ribbing. I think I'm going to have him try it on either way, but I think what he'll probably prefer is for me to either drop down significantly for the bottom ribbing or do some decreases at the ribbing line, because he does like a tapered, not tapered, but like where it sits on his belt and it can just rest there and it's not like sagging down. So I think that's what he'll prefer. But we'll see when we get to that bridge. Hopefully it won't turn 2 and we'll be celebrating that birthday on this podcast. But I'm looking forward to finishing that as well. I'm going to, because I want to finish that after I get these 3 test knits kind of off the needles. What I think I'm going to do is slow down on my test knitting and only do like the test knits that are like, I really, really want that item. Not, I would love to test that item. Only really want, so that way I can do some personal knitting that I want to do. I got a magazine and a book that I want to make some items out of, so I want to do that. I'm going to reset because, well, if you're here for the knitting, just the knitting, that's the end part. I'm just going to show the yarn that I dyed while we were on our little break vacation, staycation, and then 2 books that I got, and then I think that is it for the podcast. So while I reset, if you were just here for the knitting, please remember to give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. I would appreciate it. And if you're going to stay with me, I'll be right back. Welcome back. Well, probably just a small edit for you, but I am now going to go over the yarns that I have dyed while we were on our break. This is the first one, Butterfingers. This is the first one, and it's like a periwinkle into a cornflower blue. And then I don't know if it's showing up on the camera for you, but there is some sparkle in there. Yes. So nice and tonal. This one is 75% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and 5% lurex. And that lurex is what gives it that sparkle. But I'm looking forward to making this a shawl. This is going, I don't think I'll do any other color with this because this color is just stunning to me. So I think this will be by itself in some kind of shawl. Not too heavily laced. Maybe a little bit of texture. I bet it would look nice with something with cables. I think I have something in my library that's a shawl that has like cables on it. I was looking through it the other day and I think I remember seeing something like that. It could have been on Ravelry, but I think it was in my library. Because I was looking at patterns and I was like, why am I looking at patterns? I need to look in my library. That's what I need to be looking at. So I think it's in my library. The next one is a green, surprise, surprise, that I dyed. And this is also very tonal, but the skeins, I dyed five of these. So it's a sweater's quantity, and they all came out pretty similar in tone. So they all have that tonal bit. I'll definitely have to make sure I'm alternating skeins for this one, so there's no like pooling or flashing of colors, because they all have that similar tonal look to them. This one is 85% superwash merino, 15% nylon. It is a high twist. It has 360 meters per 100 grams. So that's going to be a sweater in the future. And like I said, I'm going to slow down on a lot of the test knitting unless I really, really want that item. That's what I'm going to be test knitting. Because now, like, if I get a test knit in my email and I have the time, I'm going to sign up for it. That's just how I'm rolling now. And I really want to get to some of those books that I was talking about in my very first episodes. And then I've also bought some more books, items that I want to knit. So I think it's best if I just slow down and just knit those items that I really want, because then it will feel like I'm knitting for me and for my personal self, not just because it's a test knit and I think I want to do it. And then this is the last one that I dyed. This one is the 3 skeins. Yes, this one is 3. So this could be a cardigan with some other skeins added to it, or a really nice big cozy shawl. But this is a mauve, but more of a pinky mauve than like a brownie maroony mauve. It's still deep. I wouldn't say like fuchsia purple, but more so to like a light mauve. If you kept adding brown to it, you'd probably get a mauve, a very deep mauve. But that one is stunning as well, and it's super soft. This one is BFL silk. Let me get the content exactly for you. 55% BFL silk, 45% BFL, 45% silk, 438 yards per 100 grams. And that's this one. So I'm looking forward to knitting all of those here in 2021 so that I can have what I want and what makes me happy and all the joy from knitting all the things that I want, because I am very much a product knitter. I enjoy the process, but I definitely like the item more most of the time. So that is it for the yarn that I dyed while on hiatus. I hope those colors came out very nice and true to you. It looks like it to me, but there is a little bit of sun in this eye, so it might have been off. But it looked right on camera to me. The last two items that I want to talk to you about are, one is a magazine that I got, and I mentioned that I wanted to knit some items out of the magazine. So the first is this pom-pom issue, and I like the sweater on the front. I've never knit a Stephen West pattern. It's not that his aesthetic doesn't please me or anything. I think they're really cool. I definitely do like the colors that he uses. I've just never knit one. Just like I've never knit an Andrea Mowry pattern. I have, I think, 2 in my library. I've just never knit it. But I'm going to do that. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, I can make this into a cardigan version. But guess what? I don't have to. Because there's a cardigan version on the inside. Get the flare out of that I do not have to modify for because it's already done. So I want to knit that, and then once I opened it, this big cozy shawl called my name. And I have the perfect yarn for it. It's actually shades of green in the, it has escaped me now. It's Knit Picks. I want to say it's Paragon, or it can be, I think it's the Leo. Whichever one the bamboo one is, that's the 2 greens that I have. And I think I'm going to knit that out of that into this. But that's some of the 2021 personal knitting that I want to do, like from my books and from my stash that I'm looking to do. And then the last thing that I got was this. I mentioned that I'm not a huge cowl person. I just knit them for gifts. So most of the items that I knit out of here are probably going to be gifted. But I did want to support Mina and make sure that since I was able to, that I could definitely help other crafters and support them in what they like doing. I'm sure you've seen plenty of reviews of what's on the inside, so I'm not going to flip through it. But those are the 2 things that I definitely am going to be knitting from in 2021, and then slow down on some of the test knitting in 2021 and just do those tests that I absolutely want to do because I want that item. So I think that is everything. Let me check my notes just to be sure, because it always happens that I go and edit and I'm like, hey, I wrote it down, but I didn't say it, because that's how I roll. Yep, that's all. So thank you for joining me for part 2. Hopefully it wasn't terribly long and the sound is much better for you. Like I said, let me know if it is or if it isn't, and we'll do this journey together and tweak it, because it sounds perfectly okay to me in editing. Someone just mentioned in the comments, and I want to thank that person if I hadn't said it already. Someone mentioned in the comments that the sound was a little bit off, so hopefully this is a little bit better for you. Please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. I would definitely appreciate it. Share on your Instagram. Send me a DM. I would love to chat with you. For now, I will see you in a couple of weeks, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye.